What's up YouTube, and welcome to the Anabolic Outpost. With summer right around the corner, it is very likely that you will be craving cold treats like ice cream more and more often. Unfortunately, there are so many high calorie and high sugar options that are easily accessible, and it's tempting to resort to stuff like ice cream when you're trying to stay on track with your diet. Thankfully, if you are here on this recipe today, you have done the necessary steps to seek out an alternative to these high calorie foods. These strawberry cheesecake PROTEINSICLES delicious ice cream bar alternative that's extremely comparable to the real thing. And I will have many more anabolic ice cream recipes coming like I promised in the fall time. I've been waiting until summer to drop these. And although this isn't necessarily anabolic ice cream, it is still an anabolic ice cream bar. The PROTEINSICLES name is kind of stolen for Greg Doucette, so I'll give credit to him for that. But if you're curious as to what these are going to turn out like, it's going to be no different than any ice cream bar that you could pick off the shelf at the grocery store. But best of all, they are less calories than those bars with more protein, letting you have ice cream guilt-free. So before we get to making these PROTEINSICLES, let me show you the ingredients that you will need to make them. The first ingredient I have here is strawberry cheesecake protein powder, as expected with strawberry cheesecake PROTEINSICLES. Next up here we have frozen strawberries, fat-free Greek yogurt, fat-free milk or your milk of choice. This right here is sugar-free, fat-free Jello mix, and we will actually be using the powder for this recipe. This one right here is cheesecake flavored. Next up is xanthan gum, and this really helps to create the texture of an ideal ice cream bar. And last up we have your sweetener of choice. I am going to be using sucralose. Now we could get into making this recipe, and to make these PROTEINSICLES, they will be put together by using this food processor. Obviously, we gotta crush those frozen strawberries, but before we get to that, I'm gonna mix in the dry ingredients, starting off by adding in that strawberry protein powder, and I just threw in 90 grams of that. 90 grams for only 6 small popsicles. These things are absolutely packed with protein. Next up is that cheesecake Jello powder, and I'm only going to be using half the packet, which is going to come out to 14 grams. You could save the rest of the packet for PROTEINSICLES in the future, or if you have a lot of popsicle molds, you could just double this recipe and make a bunch of PROTEINSICLES. I'm now going to go ahead and scoop out my sucralose sweetener, and I'm going to be adding 3 grams of the sweetener. And the last dry ingredient we got here, Greg Doucette's favorite, xanthan gum, and in total I am adding 3 grams. Like I was saying earlier, if you don't know about this stuff already, it's used in a variety of different ways to enhance texture, and especially in these, or if you're making anabolic ice cream, any cool treat really. It not only helps mimic the texture of real ice cream, but also provides you more volume by expanding the product itself. And that's all for the dry ingredients, and you could go ahead and hit it with a quick blend until you feel that it's thoroughly incorporated. Moving on here to the wet ingredients, starting off by adding in the fat-free Greek yogurt. Only adding in 90 grams, but this frozen yogurt is far better than any frozen yogurt shop that you could go to, and I'm sure the macros look a hell of a lot better as well. I'm pouring in that fat-free milk now, measuring it out at 180 grams. Of course, I'll get the hate in the comments for using fat-free milk, but I'm not switching to almond milk anytime soon. But if you're going to use dairy milk, at least it's Oberweis milk, right? And lastly here, the star of the show, which absolutely topples over my blender when I add it, the frozen strawberries, and you're going to measure these out to 200 grams. I had just quickly measured out 200 grams and then froze them before this video, and to no surprise to me, it still remains the same weight after frozen. Just a quick tip there if you run into that yourself, and that marks all of the ingredients added in, and we could go ahead and blend this together until it is consistent and smooth once again. Alright, it's looking pretty smooth now, and I can give you a look inside to show you that consistency that we're looking for. I'm doing the Greg Doucette flip test over, and it's not even budging. That's how you know you made it right. And although I suppose you could eat it like ice cream from here, it definitely won't be as cold. Plus, we want these in bar form anyway. I promise they are a lot better. And even then, if you don't have these slick popsicle molds like I do, you could improvise and you could make these into ice cube trays and have like some PROTEINSICLES bites or whatever sort of compartment storage container you could find to pour this into and have your own molds. And the pour for these popsicle molds are kind of tough, like you could see here, but the strategy for pouring these inside of the molds is to just pour it on top without really thinking much, and then as you go you could shake the silicone to push it down and continue the process, and then from there you could just wipe the top, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about in just a moment. It may be looking like a mess now, but in no time at all I have these popsicle molds filled to the brim and they're ready for me to throw my plastic sticks in. If you're making these for the first time and you have a mold that's similar to mine, it's very important that you fill each mold to the top, otherwise it's not going to come all down to the bottom on the stick. Not only will it look weird, but it also doesn't have much stability once it's frozen. Speaking of frozen, once you have your sticks in, or all of the mix into whatever mold you're using, you could go ahead and freeze these for at least 4 hours, and then they will be ready to consume. Once you have completed that 4-hour long freezing process, here are just a couple of photos of what they're looking like once they're complete. Of course, I was so excited to dip into these that I didn't even get the chance to record a full-fledged video like I usually do, spinning around the object and getting some live action shots in, but I hope you could appreciate the photos and that serves just as effectively. I can't really just repeat the same 2 photos, so back to the ingredient screen. But that actually concludes the making of these Protein-sicles. For tagging along and making this recipe with me here today. If you came this far, I guess I could save you the work of calculating the macros yourself. For the purposes of this video, I made 6 different Protein-sicles, and I'm just going to be giving the macros if you consume one of them, so you could do the adjustment math yourself if you do more or less. But for just one of these, it has 12 grams of protein, 13 grams of carbs, and only 1 gram of fat for just 105 calories. More than welcome calorie reduction of over 50% from the standard ice cream bar that you could find on store shelves. Not only that, the protein has to be at least double, if not triple, than anything else you could find. Plus, I don't really have a true reference point for what you could find at the store. And I'm just assuming your everyday store-bought ice cream bar, like a Fudgesicle or a Dreamsicle, something along those lines. A great way to dodge your cravings if you find yourself craving one of those. Even further than that, I am also intending to create a Fudgesicle and a Dreamsicle recipe to further be uploaded on this channel in the future. Be on the lookout for those if I piqued your interest with those 2 names coming up. But unfortunately, all great videos have to come to an end, and this one is no exception. If you have any questions for me about this recipe or anything else, leave that down below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Other than that, if you found this recipe tutorial both helpful and delicious, this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.